All right, we are here at my tiny traveling worm bin, and it has been over 37 days since we were in here last, and this plastic has done a really good job of, I think, keeping it moist, and we'll see once we get in here. And I had to replace the paper because during that time they had disintegrated and eaten almost the whole sheet of paper in here, and I'm just going to kind of tuck these worms in, and they are going to come right back in when we put that on top. And check it out, all the cardboard that we have placed in here is kind of turned a dark color, and they've done pretty good. This bin itself is 101 days old, and I think we fed it about 8 times. Now it's 15 days since I was in here last, and I didn't take a video. All I did was throw a bunch of food in here before we went on our trip to Brazil. So all I did before the trip was kind of dig a little bit of a hole in here, and we put in some celery, an apple core, a lettuce stalk, a bit of a banana peel, a tomato top, and then of course we added some amendments. But it was kind of a quick feeding because we have been super busy. Our boys came home from college and we were prepping for our trip. But the last time before that was when we visited the WriggleBrew team, and in that feeding we gave them some green beans and peppers. So we'll see if we have any of that in here. Now with this traveling worm bin, I like to take it anytime I can because that's one of the things I want to demonstrate is how with this tiny bin you can take it in an RV, even in a car on a road trip. You can have it in a college dorm or an apartment. Basically, you can worm farm anywhere you are. It doesn't matter how small your space. And let's dig in and see if any of that food is left. But on the trip to Brazil, I really didn't think that the government of Brazil or even the United States would want me to be transporting earthworms, so we didn't take it. But it was a trip of a lifetime. I am actually 1/4 Brazilian. My grandmother's from there. So it was kind of a spiritual journey for me, and we wanted to take our kids there as well. And this looks like, it looks to me like a piece of plastic, and there's a little bit of a worm right there, but I think it actually might be kind of peel or something from a fruit. And as I rip it, I'm just not sure. So what I'm gonna do is kind of get that worm off, and I will take it out because I'm just not sure. So I am finding some other stuff, and again, another bit of a peel. This one looks a little bit more yellow, so I'm pretty sure this was probably from some peppers. And other than that, I'm really not finding any of that food that we had left, but I am finding lots of great worms. And right there, you kind of see a mature worm by my thumb, and here you see more of a juvenile. And there's probably lots of babies and maybe even cocoons. Now, I don't know if you watched it, but before we started this bin, we counted out over 1,000 worms and lots of babies in the 6th iteration of this bin. So we have harvested this bin many times over, and we usually get about 10 pounds from it, which isn't too bad for kind of a shoebox shaped bin. And yeah, you're seeing lots of great worms. This one is turned upside down, and I'm not sure if you can see, but these are all red wigglers. I'm gonna kind of try, I'm gonna attempt to grab this worm. I don't know if I can, but you can see they've got a bit of an orange tip to their end, and when I turn it over, they actually have an underside that is, you know, less dark, and you can see through their intestines the food that is going in there. Hopefully you can see that. Worms are very curious creatures, so they go all around. And let me see what we find and see if it's any different than what we see in the middle, because there just wasn't that much food. I am seeing more cardboard compared to what I found in the middle, so that does not surprise me because food hadn't been in there, but they are still breaking it down. You know, every time I feed, I put a little bit more cardboard in, so they are getting both food and cardboard, and they eat both of it. Pretty much all organisms on Earth are mostly carbon, so that's why it's important to put bedding in. And bedding does a good job of moderating the moisture and also kind of aerating the bin for the worms so that oxygen can get all throughout it. So let's go ahead and keep digging on the sides and kind of mix all this around. And every handful, even though I haven't fed it in a while, is lots of worms. Now I think the carrying capacity or the max amount of worms that will kind of breed in here is somewhere around 1,000. So if anything, I expect the worms that were babies to just kind of get bigger and maybe not reproduce as much. And they are just fantastic. This bin has just particularly beautiful worms. I love kind of the dark sheen that they have. And call me weird, but I could just sit here and look at them forever. And I suspect a lot of you can too if you're watching this video. So let's keep digging around. And I do want to talk about our Brazil trip. I am sorry that it has been so long since we have released a video. But like I said, it's been a little bit busy. And the people in Brazil are just amazing. I'd read all kinds of stuff about about, crime and, don't have your phone out because someone's going to snag it, that kind of thing. I just didn't see that kind of stuff over there. It was fantastic. So if you're ever hearing, don't go to Rio de Janeiro or that kind of thing because of crime or just kind of being apprehensive about it, forget about that. Go. It is beautiful. The land is absolutely beautiful. As you can see in the pictures I'm showing you right now, the people are amazing. They are the most happy people of all the places I've visited. I think Brazilians are the most happy. They are always singing, always humming. Even if they don't carry a tune, they are singing and humming. It is just a happy place to be at. And we did all kinds of things. We went to the highest peak in Rio. We did obviously the Copacabana and Ipanema beaches. We went to Sugarloaf and Christ the Redeemer. It's just an absolutely beautiful place to be, especially for someone from Florida where the land is very flat. So I highly suggest you go to Brazil. And even if I can't take my worm bin to the various places I go, I am definitely going to let you know what we think about them. So again, they're breaking down the cardboard very well. I don't know if you can kind of look really closely, but at the edge of every piece of cardboard, there's lots of frayed fibers, and I can actually see where the worms are kind of gnawing at them. And even like this piece of newspaper right here by my thumb. So good stuff. Let's go ahead and dig a little bit more around, and then we are going to set up for our feeding. All right, I like to feed in the center here, so I've created a little bit of a trough, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add bedding. I always add bedding anytime I add food scraps. So in we go with some fresh dry cardboard, and I put dry cardboard down just because the food that I put in here is frozen and then thawed out. It's got a lot of liquid content, so that will help to keep this bin right at the right moisture. And this bin is kind of in transition. It is somewhere about midway, and it's getting a lot more castings, and castings really hold the moisture. So it's at this point that you kind of have to be careful with moisture because you're so used to having to kind of add more moisture, and at this point you want to try and get less moisture in it because it just retains every little drop of liquid that it has in it. So here's what we had in mind to feed, and it's kind of a lot, so I'm just going to kind of pick and choose. But one thing we are going to put in here is this tiny little eggplant. Now, while we were gone, we didn't have much rain, and then all of a sudden we got a lot of rain. So I think that's what caused this little bitty eggplant to split like this. But what we're going to do is put this right down here in the middle, just like this. And we're going to keep it in my tiny worm bin. I have 3 other worm bins, but all of them are bigger than this. And I think we're really going to get to evaluate how this did. Now I froze it, so hopefully it broke down all the kind of plant material. Plants have cell walls, and when you freeze them, the water expands as it turns to ice, and it kind of breaks down the plant material at a cellular level. So we'll see how the fruit part of it does, and then also how the stem does. And then we'll put in a banana peel, and you know what? I'm not going to give him this whole thing. I'll probably just give him one little piece, just like this, and it's got a sticker on it. Oh, it came off easy, so I'll just take it off. We've got some Brussels sprouts that we'll give them, kind of like mini cabbages. I don't know if you've ever put cabbage in your worm bin, but if you do, make sure you freeze it, because if you don't, it will grow like crazy. The brassicas tend to grow in worm bins if you don't freeze them. We've also got a bit of a cucumber and some broccoli, along with some forbidden food. This is an onion, and this paper will take a little bit longer, but they will probably get to this onion. This is about the maximum amount of onion that I would want to put in a worm bin this size with only 1,000 worms. So just make sure if you're going to put citrus or onion or any other forbidden food that someone tells you don't put in there, just put in a little bit. That's probably enough. That's enough.
Don't you think?
One more piece. One more piece. I need some color. I'm getting the that's enough from the executive producer. So I'm just going to put in some strawberry tops and a little bit of tomato for color. And there is our feeding. So if you watched the last video of the tiny worm bin, we went over and visited the WriggleBrew team and saw how they made worm tea. And they have awesome microbes in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this tiny worm bin just a little boost of their microbes. I'm not going to put too much because I don't want to add a whole bunch more liquid, but now I've got their fantastic concoction of microbes for my tiny worm bin. And if you're interested in the WriggleBrew's worm tea, I've got some affiliate links in the description and the pinned comment. And here we're just going to put down a little bit of worm chow, just another way of getting rid of some expired grains from my pantry. And the worms enjoy that as long as I don't put it in huge clumps and mat it down. And this is just some coffee, again, another way of me getting some nutrients into my worms and eventually naturally into the garden. And then finally, we'll go in with some eggshell grit, and I have found that the worms usually go for the eggshell grit first. It's just amazing. Check out some of my time lapses and you'll see what I mean. So the worms are going to use that eggshell grit in their gizzards to help them make the particles of the food smaller, and we're just going to go ahead and bury this up. I like to add just a little bit of cardboard on top, and then we'll add some of their bedding and this castings from the sides, and then we're just going to add the cardboard and kind of button this up. It's always important to bury the food. One, it helps the worms get into the food from all different angles, but also it'll keep the smells away from any kind of fruit flies or gnats that want to, check it out and maybe lay their eggs. And one thing I want to show you is that there is no condensation on the sides of the bin at all. And that's because I have all these holes in the side and as well on the lid. And this is a very shallow worm bin. It's only about 7 inches high. So if you're tending to get condensation on the sides and the worms are coming up and like kind of getting on your lid, it's not because the worms are trying to flee necessarily. It could be just because there's liquid on there and they use it as a super highway to kind of explore. So if you're having that issue, you may want to put some more holes in the side of your bin, get that condensation off the sides, and your worms will really stay put. So I've just got some comments about that and I just want to kind of address it. So let's put the newspaper back on and see if we see our 2 worm friends. Yep, one there and one there, so everybody is safe and sound. And then we'll put our plastic in to help retain the moisture that is in there. So I hope you're all having a great day. I hope your worm bins are doing fantastic. And I just want to say Happy New Year and thanks for all your support and watching our videos over the past year. So happy vermicomposting, everybody. Take care now.